Good morning, Bardstown and Nelson County. It's time for Bradford and Brooks. Jim Brooks and Margie Bradford with you this morning, and we'll be here till the noon hour. And then stay tuned to WBRT for the best in state and local news. All right, Margie, we got a beautiful March 1st outside.
Well, it is. It is gorgeous, and I'm enjoying it. But I'm also wondering why we got spring a month early. So.
Well, you know, we have a bluebird box at home, and the bluebirds are already working on their nesting. So it's and we've got daffodils up, and I'm going to have to mow the grass here the next week or two. But I don't know, what's the old saying? March comes in like a lamb and goes out like a lion.
You're right.
So I'll be anxious for April 1st. All right, Margie, we have a very special studio guest with us this morning. Nelson County Judge Executive Tim Hutchins is with us. Good morning, Tim.
Good morning to both of y'all, and glad to be here.
Well, it's great to have you, Tim, and I know that you talk about a busy guy. I think these last couple of months, as Judge Executive, you have you've kept. I think you probably kept everybody in the county government busy as well as yourself.
It's been some challenging times, if you want to say that. So a lot of time, a lot of hours. Just to be point blank, it's 63.5 hours a week that I've been putting in, just because I've got a tally of it all. So
okay.
So I just let you know that. Anyway, I'm not asking for a raise.
Well, you're Judge Executive 24 hours a day, really. Your phone can ring just about any time. Anytime there's a need or a problem.
Yeah, my cell phone's available to everybody else, so I'm getting a lot of calls, and that's fine. I mean, I'm up for the challenge.
Well, Tim, tell us a little bit about, give us an update on county government so far. I know that you're I don't know if you've had complaints or just dirty looks from some of the people that have to come to the fiscal court meetings because they've been rather lengthy sometimes. But I think you could say lengthy, but also very thorough too, because you're trying to get a handle on county government and all those agencies.
Well, the first meeting was 4 hours, I think 12 minutes. The second one was 3 hours and maybe 15 minutes. And the third one was about 2 hours and I think 30, 40 minutes. And the last one was down, because I had to have two executive sessions on the last two. But I've caught a little flack from some of the magistrates, but, I told them that they got to earn their money when I come in, so things change. You got a new sheriff in town, so they, but my goal was to bring all the different departments and staff members in at every meeting starting out, so the magistrates, 3 new magistrates for sure, knew how many different divisions was under the umbrella of fiscal court and the general public. Because when I campaigned, it was about transparency and openness and open dialogue, so I think we hit that mark pretty heavy, and we had reports from, I think I've had it from every, only group I haven't brought in really was the tourism side and the downtown, down street, Main Street people, and I attempt to bring them in too. And then I've kind of eased up a little bit, but we've had a lot of business to discuss. And so then I've had the last couple of meetings, I've restructured some employees. We moved some people around. But what I have done is probably saved the county, I don't know, over $300,000 to $400,000, about $300,000 probably total so far. I've been working with Justin Hall at the jail. He already had a whole lot of plans, and we worked out some more details. He's probably saved over 100, maybe close to 200,000 so far. And there's just a whole lot of things. I've put a lot of work on Carol. She is my, administrative assistant. Rhonda's our treasurer. Brad Spalding is the county engineer. John Greenwell is the landfill manager engineer, but I've kind of restructured those to be communicating, and I've got that main 4, everything we talk about, us 4 pretty much talk about it together, because they got a lot of knowledge, and they're very, very good at what they do. I know I've loaded them up, and I'm trying to get a lot of things accomplished that we've got to do, and that maybe should have been done. But I'm restructuring some different, changing a lot of different departments around. Internally, we've done. I mean, just a load of stuff. They can't hardly keep up with what they're doing, but it'll ease up a little bit. I plan on bringing maybe another person or two on to help support them, because we can get a lot more money out of Frankfurt and Washington if we do this thing right. And so it's been a lot of, but it's been good. It's been a lot of. I've had so much positive feedback about the knowledge that people's gotten from the meetings and understanding what's going on in the community. Because a lot of people don't understand.
It's kind of like it's pretty much a crash course in county government. Well, you've got mostly new.
Through magistrates.
Fiscal court.
Yeah, and I've got a really good, strong fiscal court. It's common sense is what I like, and I think they don't agree with me on everything, and that's fine. I don't want them to agree with me on everything, because I don't want to. And I've tried to explain to them, get me. I mean, I knew a lot about this already just because I was a magistrate and I stayed on top of it, and I've hit the road running pretty hard. You do learn some other. You always learn every day. It's just different management styles. I've been in business for my entire life, and but it's been good. I've had tons and tons of positive feedback. So you're going to see more to come. There's a lot of we're working on. I can give you. I'll be here all day telling you everything I'm working on. So you'll see more of it.
Talking about the amount of money saved, can you give us some indication of what you did to save that amount of money?
Well, it's like at the at jail with Justin, and he said we changed the phone system, and there's more money coming in from the phone companies where the inmates use the phones. We've changed the provider for the doctors and the drugs, different provider that's got a whole lot better contract. The food cost, it's really amazing how much you get this food cost down. You got a company going to come in and actually provide some help in the kitchen and prepare the food and buy the food from them. It's going to save, I forget the number, it was several thousands of dollars. And internally changing some people around down there, and that he'll utilize his full-time people, that he won't have to use as many part-time people. So. And then on my end, I've moved some people around. I'm changing the animal control out there. It's going to save about $50,000 a year, 50 to 60 to 70. I've restructured our maintenance guys' departments and the budgets. We have one working directly with the jail. He's out working in the other facilities. I brought one in that's taking care of the new courthouse, but he's taking care of the other facilities where we had three basically doing it before. Now we've got two. I didn't get rid of them, but we restructured that department, and the road department with Brad, and using the inmates instead of hiring a bunch of part-time help on the bulk out and pickup. Right. We've contracted the mowing out over the years, but now we're going to start mowing the old courthouse, the health department, Culvertown Park, I think the Balltown Park. There's another place, some of the parking rides we're going to start mowing and take care and weed eating and all that ourselves internally. That money's coming out what we call the supervisor out of the I call it the landfill tax that the state gives us back about almost $60,000 a year, and then we're going to use them to help pick a lot of garbage up. Still use the clubs, but there was a lot of duplication there. We fixed that, so there won't be duplication. And the other, so we're going to have two what I call cleanup teams. They'll be doing mowing, cleaning, picking up garbage. If you just go around and see the garbage, right, it's just almost embarrassing. So, that's going to save us a ton of money, because part of that money is coming out of the canteen fund, which is from the inmates fund. It's not coming out of tax dollars, so it's basically tax free. I want to work on what I call a tree program that we've contracted out. When you get there's a lot of dead ash trees everywhere. Right. And they're dangerous, fall on the roads when they're on the right of ways, and you get a lot of calls over the years, but you're limited on what you can pay. and limited on your employees. So we're going to actually start a program there internally that we're going to start taking a lot of these trees down because they're very unsafe after you figure out what happened in E-Town with that sign fell.
Yeah.
And, those 2 people lost their lives. And it's just little things like that to try to prevent things.
Right.
We're looking at the health insurance. I think we're going to save a lot of money in that. I've been working with them on try. My goal is to offer the employees a better package and several more incentives and more options, so we can get new employees and retain employees. It's not official yet, but I can say it. And I've talked to some of the masters just briefly, but we're probably going self-insured. They can save the county a lot of money, but you got to be careful there.
Yeah.
I've looked at that before I got elected, and there's a possibility we can save several $100,000 there on top of everything else I told you. But you got to be real careful if you have a big claim. So you got to make sure you got you escrow some money to take care of that. So it's just on and on and on. Safety programs. I mean, with we're under CAECO when it comes to our liability insurance and our vehicles and so on. There haven't been really any safety programs established where you can get some breaks where your third parties come in and do your inspections. So there's just so many opportunities, and I probably left some of them out, but you'll see more coming. We're going to change, and I can't do it all overnight, but there's been a lot of positive changes, and it's going to.
Right. Well, Tim, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about House Bill 5. I know that you called a press conference Monday, and you were talking about how the impact of that, because the press conference was amazing, because it was, of course, it was you, but it was judge executives from several other counties. We had school superintendents from all over the place. We had sheriffs. We had firefighters. We had all these agencies that will be impacted negatively if the bourbon barrel tax is repealed. And so it was a packed house. And it was good information, especially at Pam Thomas from the Kentucky Center for Economic Policy.
Did you listen to it?
Yeah, I watched it, and she submitted a column to the Gazette that I posted, and so she talks about the history of the barrel tax and the history of tax breaks for the bourbon industry.
Yes.
And how that they barely pay tax now, and they can't take advantage of the tax breaks they get for paying the barrel tax
because they pay so food.
They don't pay enough tax.
Don't pay enough taxes.
Yeah. Well, there's it's sad in my opinion, but when you start pulling money from your schools, it's everybody's needing more money all the time, and getting more money is one thing, but when you start taking money, it's 1.2 million. I mean, I don't want to get repetitive here. If anybody's kept up with this stuff, it's about $8 million lost to this county total.
Right.
And Nelson's number 1, Marion's number 2, Bullitt's probably 3, Franklin. I mean, there's about 20-something counties that's going to be devastated, 10 of them extremely hard.
Mm-hmm.
And, I want to give a thank you to my wife, Gina, and Christy, my niece, which both helped me open up, and Candy Masseroni on this public hearing, I guess you call we had, or the press conference. And we had people from all over the state, and Dick Keaton, he's raving about it, and everybody the comments that they've got back the next day. We went to Frankfort yesterday all day, and it's outpouring support from most of us that we can see that there's very few for this bill, except for the KDA and some of the people that's tied to the KDA, and some of the people that's maybe tied to the distilleries.
Yeah, KDA is the Kentucky Distillers Association.
That's correct.
That's the lobbying group that's pushing the bill.
And my goal was to bring all these people in and get the news media there, and I think that was successful because I heard it. I mean, it was a lot of talk in Frankfurt about this yesterday, and you got the CAECO, Kentucky Association of Counties, League of Cities, Magistrates and Judges Association, the Superintendent Association. I mean, on and on and on and on. Now, the thing about it is, and Pam Thomas, I'm going to say give her a tremendous amount of credit also. So anyway, Christy and Gina and Candy and Pam, for them to be there and help me organize this thing, because I couldn't do it without them. But it was a very, very good meeting, one of the best ones I've ever been to as far as knowledge. And Pam she worked for the LRC, 'cause she's seen it all.
Right.
She was there.
Oh, yeah.
And all the breaks that they have gotten in 2014 and 18. And Jimmy and them said they supported the distilleries, and I think we support the distilleries, and that's good. They've had a booming business. But now you come back and, want to take the icing off the cake, my goodness. I mean, it's just, I just think it's, well, I know it's going to be a battle, but.
Well, I know that for having served on the school board as many years as I did,
Yes.
I know how much that the school systems depend on that. And if that money goes away, those bills still have to be paid, and
Yeah.
that money is not going to come from the state, it's going to come from the local taxpayer.
Local taxpayers, and we're spending in this county. Just let me real quick. We're put 1.8 million into the jail, and if you got to get a call, that's fine. Let me know. Out of the regular tax dollars, 1.4 million into the ambulance service out of what I call regular tax dollars. 1 million in the health department out of regular tax dollars. We're only getting $75 on occupational tax. It's capped at .5, $75.
Right.
We don't have an insurance tax in this county. We don't have a health department tax in this county, which all the counties we belong to do have that. So we're very limited with resources, and that's a good thing. We will need to operate a tight budget, and we don't want a bunch of money to waste. I'm all in favor of that. And I'm not for raising any taxes, and I don't want to impose any new taxes. Now, some of the fees, again, I've told you back during the campaign, it's not like it's new news. The different fees in different offices need to be adjusted because they haven't adjusted them, and now tax dollars are subsidizing the dispatch center by about $300,000 of the city and county, and we're going to borrow $3 million to build this new phase of the landfill that, again, in my opinion, should have been escrowed over the years, that it was when I was on fiscal court, to continue these new phases. So, but you got to adjust your fees to pay for these. I mean, you know what a new truck costs. I mean, everything is pretty much doubled, let's just say, across the board, equipment and materials. And, I mean, you've got to operate. The sheriff could possibly lose 3 deputies if this thing goes away at $240,000. We're getting $1.2 million out of this bourbon tax. It'd probably be $1.5 this year coming up, and just add that up real quick. And Joey's already limited at the ambulance service. He's down 3 paramedics or 4 EMTs. The dispatch center's down 3. They're not paying them, some of the dispatch guys, $14, $15 an hour. Well, how in the hell are you going to compete with anybody? You can't do that.
Right.
So I'm just telling you, there's a lot of problems that we've got to fix. That I've said it publicly. I inherited. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but if you want to start cutting ambulances, and now this bourbon thing, and I campaign hard on it, and I'll stick to my guns. They should never ever authorize 30-year IRBs, industrial bonds, give these distilleries or factories or anybody a 30-year property tax break. I don't care who it is.
Yeah, at the city council last night, the mayor pointed out, and again, I think he probably did Monday night, that these agreements are contracts, and that these IRBs, they can't unwind them. I mean, if they abate that property
Well, the
tax
one I did,
point-
Jim, I just did one with Lux Road, and it's
Right.
public knowledge at this point. And we did a 15-year deal,
Right.
and we did the pilots that if this tax goes away, they're going to make up the difference in the property taxes.
Right.
And that should have been done all the way across the board. They didn't do that.
Right.
Now, for whatever reason, that's something they have to live with. I think there was maybe 2 the last year or 2 before I got in that they done, that the school boards may have had the pilots, and the fiscal court maybe had 1.
Right.
But
yeah,
it's just, you can't, I got to deal with just let everybody know. When I did Lux Road, they worked with me. I had some other things I wanted to do, but they already started the process. They agreed to the 15-year, the fine line when it come due. Actually, on paper, it's a 40-year IRB, because they can get more state credits in support of them. Then we'll call it in 15 years.
Right.
So the county will be made whole after 15 years. And if this thing goes away, they got to come back and pay this, the difference. There's a lot. The thing about it is, and you heard me probably say this during the election, I don't get repetitive, there's a lot of language in industrial revenue bonds contracts. The county fiscal courts and city, you can do a contract just like between me and you or Margie. You sit down, you can do these contracts, and you put basically anything you want in there. And I'm working on one right now that you'll see come later that I think if it works, you'll see some stuff come that's going to help the county out. So It's just, I think what's going to happen here is, and I met with the CAECO yesterday, and I'm kind of I want to say I'm open-minded, but I still got what I call a straight point to me. My personality is kind of say what's on your mind, and I don't want to cave in on none of it because I think they've got plenty of tax breaks, period. Mm-hmm. Now, you see some of these articles coming out and talking about this, but they're making record profits. I mean, you could go on. They got record expansions. And see, the thing about it is, we can't take them all. We've lost about 3 distilleries that we've turned down prior to my time and kind of in recent time mm-hmm. because our sewer capacity won't take it.
Right.
The pressure on our water system won't take it.
Right.
And then so there's not availability on the land. Mm-hmm. You can't get them all. Where in the hell are you going to put them at? I mean, and they know you can't. Where are you going to get the workers at? So you can't put them all in one little pocket,
Right, right.
So there's all kind. I mean, I could go on and repeat, and it's just. But I think CAECO and all of us, and I said that when I left last night. But I think they're going to reach out to the. Another thing's disappointing. We had 4 meetings last year in Frankfurt, whatever you call them meetings, dog and pony shows, what I call them.
Yeah,
and they said we're going to come up with some stuff and get together and come up with some reason. Not one time I haven't got a call from nobody to sit in and try to work out the deal. And Judge Summers out of Shepherdsville or Bullock County, and then Judge Marion County, David Daughter, he said the same thing. They haven't got a call to sit down at the table as anybody when they set up this thing. Mm-hmm. Now, maybe I'm hearing today they may want to sit down and talk to try to come up and help out and come to an agreement that would be satisfactory. Mm-hmm. Here's the thing. Your legislatures in the House and the Senate, they've got 120 counties. You've got about, this is rounded off, 30 counties that may have a warehouse that they can get some of this revenue.
Right.
So the other 90, they're counting on them to vote in favor of it because
they don't have a dog in that fight.
But here's what they haven't realized. First of all, it's hard to understand industrial revenue bonds, okay, unless you really dig into it. Most people, I've had judges call me from all over the state that some counties or businesses are looking into moving there. And I'm not a genius on it, but I do know a little bit about it, and I've learned a lot more about it. Same way on the bourbon barrel tax. Mm-hmm. The SEEK funding, if you listen to that meeting the other night, you got your SEEK, and that's another very complicated thing.
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
So let's say Nelson County gets, I'm just going to round off numbers, and they get, the state kicks in 60% of their funds, and they say the county, they collect 40% of the funds, or vice versa. The state, because we're a prosperous county, got a lot of growth, the state gives us less money,
right,
and our local taxpayers pay more money. So when this goes away, the state is going to have to start giving more money to Nelson County and Bardstown, which means these other counties that do not have these barrel taxes, okay, their SEEK funding is going to go down. Their local tax people is going to start paying more money. And that's the point we need to sell. Those legislators need to understand that. And Candy Mastroni has been working with a lot of them. And I've worked with Wes and Mr. Clark. I'm going to get some more information today we're going to share with them. That's where the legislatures in these other counties need to understand. They might not be getting any money from the barrel tax today, but they're going to actually lose money when it comes to their constituents are going to be raising their taxes.
Right.
And that's something, and Margie, you understand it. You've been on there. And it's very complicated. There's no doubt about it.
It is.
Right.
But there's a lot more to this.
Well, Tim, we need to take a quick commercial break.
All right, I didn't know you had to do commercials.
And then when we come back, we should have Jim Waters on the line to talk about.
Who's Jim Waters?
Jim Waters is from the Bluegrass Institute for Public Policy Solutions, and he's in favor. He wrote a column in favor of the barrel tax. So
yeah, you should have brought him in here. I'd like to have a debate with him.
Yeah. All right, we'll be right back in just a moment. Please stay tuned. You're listening to WBRT and Bradford and Brooks.
Count on Springview Hospital for quality health care close to home. It's why we're here, providing compassionate, personalized care whenever you may need it. So you, your family, and our community can all thrive. Because no matter where you are in life, nothing is more important than your health. Springview Hospital. From the routine to the unforeseen. Count on us. Learn more at springviewhospital.com.
What's the one word that will make a 90-year-old grandmother swear?
Bingo! Bingo!
Radio Bingo is back. Save-A-Lot Radio Bingo, Monday through Friday mornings, right after the 9 o'clock news. Bingo! Pick up your bingo cards today and play Save-A-Lot Radio Bingo. Daily winners get a $25 Save-A-Lot gift certificate. You can pick up your bingo cards at your Bardstown Save-A-Lot. Remember to put your name and phone number on the back of your old bingo cards and return them to the Bardstown Save-A-Lot. We'll have bonus drawings. Bingo! Details announced during our Save-A-Lot Radio Bingo show. Save-A-Lot Radio Bingo, Monday through Friday mornings, just after the 9 o'clock news on WBRT.
Bingo!
You can also watch it on BRTV, Bardstown Cable Channel 19. Don't forget to pick up your bingo cards at your Bardstown Save-A-Lot. Some restrictions do apply. Save-A-Lot Bardstown, the store that has prices that make you go, wow.
Hi, I'm Stacy Wolf with Lincoln National Bank, your hometown locally owned bank. Major purchases are a fact of life and business, but borrowing the money you need to make them doesn't have to be a major headache. At Lincoln National Bank, loan approvals and other key decisions are made quickly and locally by people who live in your community. We're a customer-focused bank with a tradition of delivering the services you need right here in Nelson County. That's hometown banking, familiar faces, and a bank you can trust. At Lincoln National Bank, hometown banking is a tradition.
Lincoln National Bank, member FDIC, and an equal housing lender.
It's an institution in downtown Bardstown and a great place to eat. Pat's Place at 125 North 3rd Street, with entrances in the front and around back by the farmer's market. You won't find a better breakfast anywhere than Pat's Place. You don't go away hungry. Get their delicious Western omelet for only $8.99. Pat's breakfast platter is only $7.50, and of course, they have their famous pancakes served with bacon or sausage. Their lunch menu, it's just as good. Get burgers, chicken sandwiches and tenders, salads, sandwiches, and more. And of course, you can't leave Pat's Place without a delicious dessert. Homemade pies and cakes made daily. Open Monday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. Open Sundays from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. breakfast only. As Pat always says, there's not a box found in the whole place because it's all homemade. Pat's Place, 125 North 3rd Street, downtown Bardstown.
Right here on your radio station, WBRT. NASCAR from the starting line to the final lap.
Welcome back to the Bradford and Brooks Show, live on WBRT 97.1 FM and 1320 AM. Also, streaming live at WBRTcountry.com.
All right, you're back with Bradford and Brooks, and we have our special guest calling us by telephone, Mr. Jim Waters. Good morning, Jim. Are you there? Whoops, wait a minute. All right, had to hit all the right buttons, Jim. Good morning.
Well, I just wanted you to know, you said good morning, Jim, and I said good morning, Jim, too. So,
Jim.
In case you didn't hear that.
All right.
No, it's great to be here. Thank you, Jim. And I miss being in the studio. It's been too long since I've been there with you guys. So, but I'm glad to at least be able to dial in for a few minutes this morning. So thank you for making room for me.
Well, it's good to have you, Jim. And our guest today is Nelson County Judge Executive Tim Hutchins, who's been in office now since, I guess, January 1. And, of course, a former magistrate for 17 years, so he kind of knows how all the pieces are put together.
Exactly. Well, listen, I want to commend the judge. I caught a little bit of your previous conversation here this morning, and I want to commend him on his work to streamline government, make it work in a more business-like fashion, be more responsive to citizens. I think that's great. And he mentioned something I'd like to talk about if we can, and that is common sense. I think that's really important when it comes to government is taking a common sense approach, whether it's tax policy or or any other economic development, whatever it may be.
Right, right. Well, we've been talking about House Bill 5, and of course, Nelson County is the biggest recipient of the bourbon barrel tax, and thus stands to lose the most. But we're just one of 20 counties. But so it's been a hot topic, as you might imagine.
Yes, it has, and it's been a good debate, a good policy debate. But I would, but Jim, if you'll allow me, with all due respect, I think to talk about this in terms of losing is not the complete story here. I think I want to commend Representative Petrie for taking a thoughtful approach and attempting. I think in this bill, if you really read it and look at it, this bill actually gives counties that are reaping revenues from the barrel tax. It gives them a significant amount of time to adjust to not having this tax. On the positive side, it also sends a message, I think, to entrepreneurs of the future that this tax, which is the only one of its kind that we levy on any kind of manufacturing in Kentucky. I mean, we don't levy a tax on GM while they're building a Corvette before they can get it to the floor and sell it. And, so this tax taxes a product while it's aging before it can even get to the shelf. So, but I also want to say good morning to Judge Hutchins, and I don't know if we've met, but I really appreciate the opportunity to be involved in this discussion. But that's kind of one of our concerns about this. Does that make sense?
Well, I appreciate your comments, but because I would respectfully disagree with probably most of your article and your thoughts of this. But
sure, I
don't know if we're going to have a debate here, Jim. But can I say something now?
Sure, go ahead.
Excuse me. We have Jim and Jim. We've got. I just received this pamphlet a few minutes ago. Since 2012, which we're at 10 years. The counties have provided I'm going to tell you, Nelson, Marion, and Bullitt alone, $2.5 billion in tax breaks to the distilleries through the industrial revenue bonds. And most of those are 30 years, and most of those do not have the pilots. When I ran hard against this, and I won by a huge margin in this county, because I think it's a big waste of tax dollars when any big company can get a 30-year tax break. I don't give a darn who it is. I never got any. I've been in business all my life. $2.5 billion with an agreement that, and I think about every one of them, that all of my discussions with all the mayors and judges everywhere is, we do this, and we're going to pay you that barrel tax, and you still bring a lot of revenue in, even though you're giving us a 30-year tax break, or bring a lot of revenue in. Now, I don't accuse anybody of lying, but I call that going against a handshake or a contract, even though it's a contract. That's pretty sad. And the second part of that is, now when I ran, I said I wasn't going to do any 30 years, and I won by a large margin, and I'm not going to do any 30 years. Actually, I just did one with Luxor. It's public knowledge, and we got a fine line in there that we did. My mindset's always been 10 to 12 years. And I even tend to think that maybe that's too long for what I call an established business. And I don't disagree with what you said about bringing revenue in. And after 2 or 3 years, you take a new company come in, entrepreneur, a lot of these craft distilleries. I would tend to agree if they could put some language in that they haven't been established, because they have to put a lot of money up and they don't have any cash flow for, 3 years, 4 years, whatever.
Let me. Can I ask you on that? And I think that's an important point. If you don't mind, I don't want to interrupt, but
no, that's fine.
I wanted to. We have a concern though also.
Who's we first? Who is we?
Well, the Bluegrass Institute, which is my organization, which has looked at House Bill 5. We're a free market organization, a public policy think tank. We're kind of the we're the free market voice in Kentucky, and a state-based group that looks at Kentucky policy.
Okay, go ahead. That's fine.
Yeah, but certainly there's concern. Our primary concern is about new entrepreneurs starting up, and the fact that this tax could be a discouragement to to building a new distillery here because of the time it takes for bourbon to age and the time it takes, and with the tax on that, having to pay taxes before it even gets to the shelf. But the other thing we're concerned about is about distilleries starting to look at other states, distilleries that are already here, as future locations where they might expand because they wouldn't have to pay this tax. It's the only kind of tax like it that we know of in the country. We don't know of another one like this.
And what's the difference? What's the difference on them paying on the barrel tax and than me or Jim have to pay on my business? I got to pay on my equipment and my tangibles and my inventory. And what's the difference?
Well,
It's because of the 2-year thing.
Well, it's because of the time it takes before that barrel of bourbon can actually be sold in your business, or let's say you have a car dealership where you have inventory that you're paying tax on, but you might sell that car the next day, or you have the opportunity to make a profit immediately on that.
Well, let me back that up a little bit. But they don't pay. They don't pay on this the first 2 years. It's like 2 years and a day, or 2.5 years. They don't pay on the first 2 years.
But it's
and there's a lot of these companies that ship this whiskey out. We know for a fact, before it becomes that third year, and they ship it to other companies of green whiskey and all that. So I don't think your information is 100% accurate because of that. But anyway, let's go back to that entrepreneurship side.
There's multiple years involved, though, not just the first 2 years. There's several years.
Do you know how much they're being assessed per barrel?
Well, I know what some of the totals are.
When I'm talking about per barrel, do you know how much they're actually paying, on a barrel, what they're assessed
Well, the state barrel tax, it's 5 cents a barrel.
But how much is the barrel value assessed at?
It is at 11%. Is it 11%? I'm looking for the number here. I don't.
No, I'm talking about the value of what they're charging, what they're paying on the value of the barrel and the whiskey that's in the barrel. Do you know what the assessed value of that is?
I know that it's 5 cents per barrel for the state barrel tax. That's what it is.
Yeah, what I'm saying, the value of the barrel, they're just like a car. If you got a $30,000 car or a house, you got a $500,000 house, you pay an assessment of $500,000. They're only paying on, I think it's $80, and I may not be exactly right here, but it's $80 for the barrel, and any barrel you buy today is $200, and the liquid that's in it is $400 or $300 and something dollars. So they're only paying on like $562 worth of value. So that's already a break up front. And a lot of these, you can't buy any barrel whiskey hardly for less than $2,000.
Right, but if you look at the overall cost of every bottle of bourbon and the amount of that that's taxed, it's about 60% of every bottle that goes to taxes in Kentucky. So if you buy a $25 bottle of Maker's Mark, $15 of that is taxes alone. So that's after the aging process. That's after it gets to the shelf. But I just wanted to interject as well that whenever you get rid of a bad tax or anti-competitive tax, at your news conference the other night, which I watched, and it was very informative in terms of allowing me to understand where you're coming from. But the problem is, there was no allowance made there for the increase in economic activity that always occurs when you reduce taxes, because taxes are generally a disincentive for entrepreneurs to grow and open or expand.
I don't disagree with that.
What you discourage, you get less of. But what you encourage, you get more of. So I wonder, is there some thinking? I guess this would be my question for you. Do you consider the fact that if this bad tax goes away, that this would encourage more economic activity in your counties, and that that would more than maybe even make up for some of that quote unquote lost revenue?
I don't. Can you hear me?
I can.
Can you hear me?
He can hear you.
No, this thing just
can
you hear me now?
His headphone connections. Can you?
I can.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I can.
The thing about it, I would disagree with that when it comes to this. In a lot of cases, I think that's accurate, but we have had record amount, and all the numbers here, they have records amount of growth, records amount of craft distilleries coming in, and when you look back at that, they do not create as many jobs as they portray when it's all said and done. Now, when you take the construction workers and the farmers and the truckers, there's a lot of jobs that falls all the way down the crack. I understand that too. But they do put a lot of burden on and one reason we've turned down, I don't think I said this earlier, and the city has turned down like 3 distilleries here because we can't take them. They put too much pressure on your sewer. They take an enormous amount of water. And then the roads, the bypasses that we hear screaming for the regular constituents. And then you got this black soot, angel's dust or whatever you call it, that I hear complaints about every single day. Yeah. They say, well, if you're gonna agree to a bill, let's let them send everybody $300-400 that's got to clean their and that's a fact. I mean, it's not a. Yeah. I mean, that's. And
I know that's a big. Here's a thought that I have for you about that, and that is, it's in the distiller's interest. You know, when I saw the fire at the bourbon warehouse, that was like last year. That happened. That was all over the news, and you know. But here's the thing: is the distillers have a vested interest, Judge, in investing in your communities, even if this tax goes away. They have every interest. It's in their interest to invest in firefighting, in law enforcement, in education, in your communities, because those are going to be the people that keep their facilities safe, that put out fires, that educate your kids. So it's not a zero-sum game here. Just because this particular type of revenue might eventually go away after 15 or 16 years, it doesn't mean that is not going to be replaced with something else or something even better. It's the way this is being done. And I guess the other point I wanted to make about what you just said was there is concern that other states that are beginning to become more competitive in this area. Paul Coombs, who is a retired economics professor at U of L, he made 2 important points I just wanted to ask you about, see what you think about. One is, he said, and I quote, there's an enormous rise of craft distilleries in other states, and the other thing he said was that Kentucky's national share of distillery jobs has slipped from 43 to 30% in the first 2 decades of this century, so the first 20 years. So what I'm asking is, I don't think getting rid of this tax is a zero-sum game. There's all kinds of motivation there for the industry to continue to invest, and I think the state is going to invest in schools, and they've had record funding for education in the last couple of years, and I didn't hear that acknowledged the other night. I heard a lot of superintendents talking about the sky is falling, but I didn't hear a lot about all of the additional funding that has been given to schools.
Well, they did. I think there was a statement made that their funding actually has, and then maybe it wasn't at that many, but yesterday, their actual state funding has decreased, really, in reality, per student. And you get into the seat funding, and it's very, very hard to understand how the formula comes up. But let me just correct you on 2 or 3 things, or disagree with you. You're talking about the percentages-wise. I don't mean we lost any of those distilleries or craft distilleries. It's just because other states are getting them, and that's just the growth in that market, and we can't take them all. Now, the second thing is this Ohio Valley market and the bourbon, and that's one reason they established here. They're here, and they want to age their whiskey here because the climate, freezing, thawing, humidity makes a difference in the product versus going to Tennessee, or maybe not Tennessee, but Texas. And that's a fact. I can give you some data on that. So there's a reason why they want to come here. Plus, the other thing is, at the other night, the school side, here's another thing. The legislatures and all, I'm going to just round this off to 30 counties that have the warehouse. It's like 26 or 7. Let's say, so you got 90 that does not have any, and that's who they're trying to get to pass this thing because they can lure them to their counties. What they need to realize, this seek funding, you got prosperous counties like Nelson County and some of them that we will lose when this goes down. The state's going to have to increase the seek funding to our counties. And there's only a pot in the state so big, and all these other counties are going to lose some seek funding in their counties that they're getting now because they will have to make it up in our counties. And that's
Well,
a
Judge,
huge deal. That's a huge deal.
Judge, on that, I understand, but here's the thing: is those seat formula, it's a very complicated formula. You're right about, absolutely right about that. We need to simplify that, actually, but that's another issue for another day.
That's right.
Here's what I would say is on that is. I think you're assuming that all of these property tax dollars or revenues are just going to go away. They're not going to be there, and I think you're going to see an increase in the growth of this industry, and we want to keep it that way. That's what we're talking about. When you talk about moisture, or you talk about the climate, I mean, Indiana has a similar climate. Now, true, Texas, that would be a different climate, but Indiana or Tennessee would have a similar climate. We see a lot of growth there, and they're nipping at our heels on that. But here's one other thing I wanted to say, make sure I get a chance to say is, we do have about 90 to 100 counties that right now do not reap benefit from the barrel tax revenue, and they have figured out how to fund their law enforcement, fund their firefighting, fund their schools without these revenues. So what I think is good about this bill, at least I would like to know what you think about this. This bill for the first couple of years actually increases the amount of revenue that counties will get from this, and wouldn't that give counties time to put those dollars in reserve and manage this phase out over
I don't think you can say reserve. Our cost is going up also, but you say that, and I agree with you when it comes to county side. But the little towns like Hebron or like Loretta, that's got these over there, they got their total budget's like $600,000. They're going to lose about 60% of that budget, and they're not going to gain any because theirs actually going to go down because there's no room to build any new warehouses there. So when you say that, that's even the city of Bardstown. They don't have any room to get any new warehouses in the city limits. So their revenue stream is not going to go up. It's going to go down 3%, 6%, and so on. So I think it's.
When you look at other,
they're going to cut us off here. Let me tell you something, or ask you something. Pam Thomas works for the LRC, and they've got all these tax breaks in 2014 and 2018 from the legislatures, but it didn't affect the counties. It affected the state, and they get all these credits, and that's fine. They helped them, and that's why one reason why we've had this abundance amount of growth. But now it's going to affect it. Why does the state want to keep changing the laws when it affect the county's revenue? If it affects the state's revenue, that's fine, but don't affect the county's revenue or the fire or the schools.
Yeah.
So Pam Thomas works for the LRC, and she had more knowledge than everybody put together. Would you be willing to sit down with the three of us and have a good little discussion and meeting?
Absolutely, and but here's what I want to say on that is I think with all due respect, the legislature has issued record levels of education spending for counties and for local school districts. I think we have to acknowledge that. Not to acknowledge that is a slap in the face of taxpayers, because we have given, the legislature last year gave record amounts of funding to local districts. They could use to fund teacher pay increases if they wanted to, and yet groups like Ms. Thomas's group and other groups have claimed that they cut funding to education, or they didn't give teachers a raise. So let's tell the whole story here.
Yeah, I understand. I don't understand it all. Jim's got to break us here, but we'll set up a meeting. I'll get Jim to set it up, and we'll try to talk about it. There's a lot of things here that I think we can come to agreement on, I hope. Thank you, sir.
I think that's great, Judge, and I truly appreciate you letting me be part of this conversation today, and I appreciate what you're doing there, so thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thanks, Jim, and we have to go. I'll talk to you soon.
Yes, and be sure to check us out at BIPS.org, the Bluegrass Institute.
That's right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Going to do it for Bradford and Brooks, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Jim.
Yes, sir.
Hometown Radio, WBRT Bardstown, 1320 AM, 97.1 FM, and on 94.9 FM in Lebanon. Playing all the classics from country's legends.